Remember when the original Xbox launched? It had Halo, a groundbreaking first-person shooter, and Project Gotham Racing, among other games. And it had a hard drive, which was new for consoles and removed the need for save packs. It had a workable online system, which was pretty much a first for consoles, although the Dreamcast did have a modem. It didn't really introduce a proper online service like Xbox Live did. In short, the Xbox had groundbreaking hardware, exclusive titles that people wanted, and a service that nobody else offered. Admittedly, Xbox Live didn't arrive at launch, but that didn't really matter. When the console dropped, it offered enough that was new, different, or just plain desirable to make gamers sit up and take notice, or some of them at least. The original Xbox was up against the juggernaut that was the PlayStation 2, and we all know about the PlayStation 2. It was a great console and it sold like hotcakes. And it was also riding on the back of the PlayStation 1's success. So, of course, the new kid on the block was going to struggle to make inroads. And even with some of the heavy hitters like Halo and then later Fable and also Project Gotham Racing, its numbers, they weren't particularly great, despite the fact that people like myself who came from PC gaming could see that it had a lot of potential. It didn't sell particularly well when compared to the PlayStation 2, but it did help establish Microsoft as a serious player in the gaming market. And it could also be argued that the original Xbox laid the groundwork for the success of the 360. And the 360, well, it went on to be a juggernaut in its own right, and it could have been even better if it didn't have so many failures in the hardware department. You know, we all know about the Red Ring of Death, but that's another story. But why am I talking about the original Xbox? Well, the original Xbox was the last time that a hardware company managed to successfully launch into the gaming arena and establish itself. Apart from maybe the Ouya, but we won't go there. And look, I think it gives us some pointers as to what's required to achieve, success in the gaming market. Now, obviously, we're living in a very different world to that of 2001 when the Xbox launched. Back then, the internet was, well, it was in its infancy, to say the least. Streaming wasn't even on the horizon, and gaming was centered around hardware rather than services. And I know a lot of people out there want to think that it's all centered around hardware now, but it's not, and we're fast moving away from the hardware model. Nevertheless, some things haven't changed that much. The main one being that if you want to be successful in the gaming arena, you have to have some games that people want to play, as well as offering something in terms of hardware and services that nobody else offers, or that you at least do better. The original Xbox did that in spades, but honestly, I'm struggling to see what advantages either Google's Stadia or Amazon's upcoming Luna service offer us that can't already be had somewhere else for less money or with better functionality. Let me give a quick example. I had a conversation with a mate of mine the other day, and he used to be a 360 owner, and he had an original Xbox back in the day as well. Now, though, he's got a couple of PlayStations, and he'll almost certainly be buying a PlayStation 5 next year at some point. So I actually asked him, would he consider buying an Xbox? And his initial answer was probably not. I then asked if he would consider the all-access option where you can buy an Xbox Series X bundled with Game Pass Ultimate for around about 28 quid a month. Yes, he said, or words to that effect. And I suspect this would be the answer from a lot of people. Not because they're particularly interested in the Xbox per se, but because Xbox is now offering a value option that's difficult to be ignored. And that option's only going to get better as we get more games coming to the service and it becomes more value for money. Sony's option's a little bit different, and as Sully in our recent Chip Chat episode said, they could struggle if they don't keep turning out top quality games. Nevertheless, Sony offers something that nobody else does, certainly for now. And that's an incentive for people to go out and buy into their platform and to buy their games. The same can be said for Nintendo. So all three of the established players in the home console market offer something of value to customers that nobody else can match. But what about Stadia and Luna? Well, I've been subscribed to Stadia for a while now just because I was curious and because I didn't want to talk about something I hadn't used. Having said that, though, I still hardly use it. Now, don't get me wrong, I actually think that the streaming on Stadia is very good, but the inherent problems with streaming are still there. Start downloading something and the games can get very choppy. Start watching Netflix in another room and the games can get choppy. Try to play on your phone when you're out and about and the signal drops. Well, forget choppy, it just dies. And, that happens with xCloud or game streaming, whatever you want to call it now as well. This is, as I say, an inherent problem with streaming. And these issues can be mitigated, but they'll never go away completely. And that's before we even get into the issue of things like data caps. That's not why I don't use Stadia, though. The reason I don't use it is that there are no games on the service that I can't get with a better experience on other platforms. Unlike the original Xbox launch, Stadia has nothing unique to offer, other than perhaps the novelty of streaming itself. The hardware isn't exciting. There isn't really hardware that you need, and that can be an advantage or a disadvantage. But, you can't get excited about the hardware like you can with a console launch. There are no killer apps, in terms of games. And the services? Well, they were oversold and underdelivered. Where's the integration with YouTube, for instance? That was one of the big selling points for the platform, and it's nowhere to be seen. And it might come down the line, but I don't know. When's it going to happen? It doesn't look like this is going to be any different for Amazon's upcoming Luna service either. They've done a deal with Ubisoft, but nothing on offer from that deal will be different or better than what we can get elsewhere. It's as if these two companies haven't really thought about what they were getting into when they set out to create a gaming platform. If you go back to the Xbox, they had the hardware, they had the games, they had the system in place with the services. Everything was pretty much ready to go with the exception of Xbox Live, but nobody else had anything like that at the time. So they were offering us stuff already that nobody else had. And look, I'm not surprised at all with Google. Anyone who's had any dealings with them knows that they're very good at promising, but equally good at failing to deliver. They're a company that appears to be run entirely by the marketing division, with no consideration for actual outcomes regarding software, services, or even customer service. But Amazon do surprise me in this regard. Whatever issues I've had with them as a company, it's clear that they're good at delivering well thought out products and services that cater to their audience. In fact, some of their original programming on Prime is extremely high quality. Why then have they not set up a gaming division to make software for their streaming platform? It seems really odd. Or perhaps I'm missing something and both companies are only interested in the potentially huge casual gaming market. In which case, at no point will they really challenge Microsoft, Sony or Nintendo. I honestly don't believe that though. I think that both Amazon and Google want to become big players in this arena, and I think we'll see them making moves in the months and years and maybe decades to come. Microsoft bought Bethesda for a reason, and I fully expect to see both of these media giants making similar moves. It's almost inevitable. The only thing that really surprises me is that they didn't do it before launching their streaming services, because Google especially now has an uphill battle trying to convince everybody that their half-baked platform is actually worth bothering with. We've seen all the stories. Nobody really thinks that their service is worth having. Certainly, if you've already got an Xbox or a PlayStation or a Switch or a PC, why do you need Stadia? Microsoft had to launch with fantastic hardware, groundbreaking games, and some truly original services in order to establish some credibility and be taken seriously. And even with all that, with all that effort, people were still saying they were going to pull out of the gaming market as recently as 2014 and maybe even later. I think most people have stopped making that claim now, but it's taken years for people to actually take Microsoft seriously in this industry. If Google and Amazon want to establish themselves in this arena, they have to start taking themselves seriously and they have to start making some games. My worry, though, is that they follow Microsoft's lead and they start buying up studios. And look, I'm not talking about early Microsoft when they first got into this industry, when they put out Project Gotham Racing and Halo. I'm talking about, buying Bethesda. If they do that, then we could see the gaming market fragment in the same way that we've seen with TV and film and all the rest of it, where more than ever before, you're going to have to decide what games you want to play and where. We get this with TV. If you want to watch a certain program, you have to subscribe to a certain service. And I could see this happening with gaming. What worries me more than anything, though, is that Google and Amazon maybe don't take gaming as seriously as we would like. Because despite many missteps over the years, Microsoft has shown repeatedly that they do take gaming and gamers seriously. And look, I do feel that they want to create great games and services and hardware. And while it's ultimately a business for them, they seem to have realized that good business comes from putting their customers first, at least for now. I'm pretty sure that's not the case for Google. And while the jury's out for Amazon, and I do have a little more faith in them, I think both companies have one hell of a lot to prove before we should even begin to think of them as even remotely credible in this area. Not that we'll have much choice if they start buying up studios, of course. And look, I hear a lot of gamers talking about exclusives and arguing that they're a good idea and all the rest of it. But it'll be interesting to see what they think when Ubisoft games are on one platform and Activision games are on another platform and EA games are on another platform and 2K games are on another platform and you have to buy them all if you want to get all the games. Because if that happens, well, it's going to get bloody expensive and frankly, most of us aren't going to be able to afford it. And look, it might not happen that way, but it could. So when you're talking about exclusives, be careful what you wish for. Because I know if you're in the Sony camp at the moment, you think exclusives are a great idea. But you're not going to be so happy. And this is why we've had the conversations over the last week or so about Bethesda. Microsoft bought Bethesda and everyone's saying, they can't keep them as exclusives on their platform. They're going to have to put the games onto Sony's platform as well. I don't think they will. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. If you think exclusives are good on the PlayStation platform, then you're probably thinking that they're good on the Xbox platform. Are you not? Personally, I'd rather we had a situation where we didn't have exclusives at all and that all the games were on all the systems and you could choose the best system for you and play your games. But the way things are going, with all these different companies being bought up and Google and Amazon getting involved and Apple probably as well, it's going to get more fragmented. And you're going to get these companies like Google and to a lesser extent Amazon, I think maybe they might take it a bit more seriously. But you're going to get companies who don't really care coming into the gaming arena. And, this was a genuine concern when Microsoft came in. People thought Microsoft were going to come in and they weren't going to take it seriously. And they've proven, I think at least, they've proven that they have taken it seriously. But Who knows where we're going to end up in 5-10 years' time. And if we are all fragmented and lots of different services and systems, then, well, some of you were wishing for that in a roundabout sort of way. And as I say, you need to be careful what you wish for. But anyway, look, that's me done. I'm off to get myself a cup of tea, and I will speak to you guys in the next one. Be sure to give it a thumbs up and like and share and subscribe and all the rest of it. You know the drill. And as I say, I'll speak to you in the next one. Bye.